Everyone thinks Supergirl is just going to be Superman, but female. That might be the biggest mistake DC fans are making, because this isn't another Earth-based superhero movie. This film is about to throw us into the darkest, most dangerous corner of the new DC universe, where hope isn't enough to survive. 9 different worlds, multiple alien civilizations, a hero carrying the trauma of Krypton's destruction, and one brutal journey that could redefine Supergirl forever. So here's everything you need to know before this movie hits theaters. Let's start with the biggest surprise, the budget. Reports suggest DC has invested somewhere between $160 and $175 million into this project. That's a massive amount of money. But honestly, once you understand what this movie is trying to accomplish, it actually makes sense. Unlike Superman, this story isn't taking place primarily on Earth. Instead, it's taking us deep into space. Think about what Guardians of the Galaxy did for Marvel. Before those movies, the MCU mostly felt grounded around Earth. Then Guardians suddenly expanded everything into a massive cosmic universe. That's exactly what Supergirl seems to be doing for DC. Instead of showing us another city full of superheroes, the movie wants to prove just how enormous the DC universe really is. And because this adventure takes place across space, there's a good chance we'll even see references to the Green Lantern Corps. After all, they're basically the space police of DC. Just like Marvel introduced Nova Corps, DC could quietly establish the Green Lanterns throughout this movie before giving them an even bigger future. But that's only the beginning. According to what's been revealed, the movie explores 9 different worlds. Not 1, not 2, 9. Each planet is expected to have its own atmosphere and its own culture, and even its own language. Reports say we'll hear around 5 different alien languages, with Kryptonian expected to play the biggest role. That alone tells us something important. This isn't just another superhero film, it's a full-scale cosmic adventure. Now here's something a lot of fans still get wrong. Many people believe James Gunn is directing this movie. He's not. James Gunn is overseeing the DC universe, but the actual director is Craig Gillespie. His previous films may not have been massive superhero blockbusters, but everyone involved says he's putting enormous effort into making this one feel unique. And honestly, that could end up being a huge advantage. The writing process is even more interesting. The screenwriter was originally connected to The Flash before eventually joining this project as DC rebooted everything. But here's the crazy part. The movie didn't just receive rewrites, it was practically rebuilt from scratch. The first version reportedly leaned much more into science fiction drama. Then the creative team decided to change directions completely. Instead of a slower, emotional sci-fi story, they transformed it into a large-scale action adventure. Meaning, 2 completely different versions of this screenplay were written, and almost nothing from the original draft survived. That's a huge creative gamble. Hopefully, it pays off. Even the title changed. Originally, the project carried the comic title Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. But because audiences could easily confuse Woman of Tomorrow with Superman's Man of Tomorrow identity, DC simplified the branding. Just like Superman's title changed during development, Supergirl's title evolved too. And yes, the movie is still heavily inspired by Tom King's Woman of Tomorrow comic, honestly. It's one of the greatest Supergirl stories ever written, because it isn't just about saving people, it's about rebuilding a broken soul. The comic explores how trauma, loss, and impossible choices slowly reshape Kers into the hero she's meant to become. That's an emotional journey that's difficult to compress into a 2-hour movie, but if they pull it off, this could become one of DC's strongest character-driven films. The main storyline also remains surprisingly faithful to the comic. A young girl named Ruthie hires Supergirl to hunt down the man responsible for murdering her father, Krem. But during their pursuit, Krem attacks Krypto. The shot leaves Krypto poisoned, and suddenly, the mission becomes much bigger than revenge. Now, Supergirl is forced to travel across multiple worlds searching for a way to save her best friend while continuing the hunt. That setup naturally creates the film's massive space adventure across all 9 worlds. But beneath all the action, the real story is still Kara herself. Every planet she visits, every choice she makes, every sacrifice is slowly changing who she becomes, and that's exactly why this story has become so beloved among comic readers. But here's where the movie makes its biggest change, and it's a character that wasn't even part of the original comic, Lobo. If you've read Woman of Tomorrow, you already know he never appears in that story. In fact, Tom King once revealed that Lobo was considered during early development before ultimately being removed. Now DC is bringing that original idea back, but this time in live action. That instantly makes this adaptation feel unpredictable. Even comic readers won't know exactly what's coming. And honestly, you couldn't ask for a better actor. Jason Momoa finally becomes Lobo. Ironically, James Gunn reportedly wanted Momoa years ago for another iconic comic character. Back then, the timing didn't work because Momoa was already Aquaman. Now that the old DC universe is gone, the role almost feels like destiny. Let's be real, as great as he was as Aquaman, Lobo might be the character he was born to play. The attitude, the look, the larger-than-life personality, it all fits perfectly. There are already rumors that this won't be the last time we see him. Some insiders believe DC is considering a solo Lobo movie, or even a limited series. Others think Supergirl could end with a small Lobo tease that sets up his future. Nothing is officially confirmed, but if audiences love this version, don't be surprised if DC gives him a much bigger role. One comparison keeps showing up after early reactions. People say Lobo gives off serious Deadpool energy, not because he's a copy, but because of his chaotic personality and dark sense of humor. In the comics, Lobo occasionally breaks the fourth wall. Whether the movie keeps that element remains unclear. Personally, even one unexpected fourth wall moment could make him unforgettable. Here's another interesting fact. After James Gunn and Peter Safran officially took control of DC Studios, Jason Momoa reportedly texted Gunn almost immediately saying one thing, "Lobo, that was it." And according to the story, the decision was basically made from that moment. Technically, Lobo became one of the very first major casting decisions of the new DC universe. Now let's talk about the villain. The film's primary antagonist is Krem of the Yellow Hills. His live-action design is expected to look noticeably different from the comics. And before audiences even meet him, we'll reportedly be introduced to the King of the Fire Hills, expanding the political world surrounding the story. Krem will be played by Matthias Schoenaerts. Here's a fun piece of DC history. Years ago, Zack Snyder reportedly considered Schoenaerts as a possible Batman before Ben Affleck accepted the role. Imagine how different the Snyderverse would have looked if that had actually happened. Now, instead of becoming Batman, he's entering the DC universe as one of Supergirl's greatest enemies. A lot of people keep asking the same question. What do I need to watch before this movie? The answer is surprisingly simple: Superman. That's it, because Supergirl is expected to directly follow the events of Superman's story. Reports also suggest Superman himself appears briefly in this movie. Don't expect a major role. It's believed to be a short 5 to 10 minute cameo where Clark helps Kara understand Earth and welcomes her into this new chapter of her life. Think of it as passing the torch, not stealing the spotlight. The casting of Supergirl is another reason fans are excited. Millie Alcock reportedly impressed James Gunn after her performance in House of the Dragon. If you've seen that series, you already know she can carry emotionally complex characters. And that's exactly what Kara needs, because this isn't a cheerful version of Supergirl. This is someone shaped by loss. Unlike Superman, Kara actually remembers Krypton. She watched her civilization collapse. She watched people she loved disappear. She lived through pain Clark never truly experienced. That emotional difference may become the biggest thing separating these two heroes. If the movie captures that trauma correctly, it could create one of the most emotionally powerful protagonists DC has ever put on screen. It's also impossible not to remember Sasha Calle's Supergirl from The Flash. She delivered an incredible performance. At one point, she was reportedly signed for multiple DC projects, but after The Flash struggled at the box office, the old DC universe ended. The contracts disappeared with it. Now Millie Alcock officially begins an entirely new era. One concern, however, is the marketing. Compared to movies like Spider-Man, Supergirl's promotional campaign has been surprisingly quiet. Spider-Man dominates headlines almost every day. Supergirl has taken a much more subtle approach. Whether that's a smart long-term strategy or a missed opportunity, we'll find out soon enough. Some early tracking reports even suggest the opening weekend could underperform compared to recent expectations. Considering the production budget reportedly sits around $175 million, the film may need to approach roughly $400 million worldwide before entering comfortable profitability. That's a significant challenge, but not an impossible one. Tonally, this movie also feels very different from Superman. Superman represents hope, optimism, light. Supergirl represents survival, grief, trauma. She isn't simply another Kryptonian, she's someone who spent around 14 years witnessing Krypton's final nightmare before ever reaching Earth. She remembers losing everything: her parents, her people, her entire world. That emotional weight changes everything about who she is. If the screenplay fully embraces that pain, audiences may connect with Kara on a level that's very different from Clark Kent. One final surprise. Current reports suggest the movie may not include a traditional post-credit scene. Instead, everything important could be wrapped up before the credits begin. Now, that would be unusual for a modern comic book movie, especially one launching a larger shared universe. So until the film releases, take that rumor with a grain of salt. But when you step back and look at everything, the massive cosmic setting, 9 different worlds, multiple alien civilizations, Lobo's debut, Superman's cameo, Krypto's emotional storyline, and Kara's painful journey through loss. This doesn't feel like another superhero movie. It feels like the moment DC finally proves how massive and how emotionally mature its new universe can become. Now, I want to hear from you. Are you more excited to see Supergirl, or is Lobo the character you're secretly waiting for? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love deep dives into Marvel, DC, hidden lore, and movie breakdowns, make sure you subscribe, because the biggest stories are always the ones hiding beneath the surface.